people from the hood always are like envious of people with good upbringings. And I talk about this because of Ja Morant. I think he had a pretty decent upbringing, but he wants to be from the hood. And that makes sense because here's why. Let me listen. Here's why. Being raised in the, see me, I wouldn't say I wasn't raised in the suburbs, but I was raised in a nice household. Like I was in a nice household in the city, right? So, and I don't know if I told this story, but I think if you go back to the Gene Isis episode 1, I probably talked about my mom, but my mom had me when she was 16 years old and my dad died when I was 2. So I was raised by my dad's parents, my grandparents who were on my dad's side. So, and my mother lived in the projects. So up until my dad died, I lived with her for 2 years. So I wasn't raised in the projects, but it was close. I might not even be here, yo. I'll probably be, and here's where it gets kind of crazy. Because people from the hood kind of got it made. Hear me out. Hear me out. When you raised in the suburbs and you make it big, don't nobody give a fuck. Nobody cares, man. Nobody cares that you made it. Oh yeah, you supposed to make it, but you make it from the hood. You make it out the hood and make it big. Oh man, you are the second coming of Christ. You really made it. You really climbed out. Oh my God, climbed from the bottoms and the depths of hell to make it. Oh man. Like, it makes a person from the suburbs not even really want to try. So I kind of get where Ja Morant is kind of like he wanting to paint that picture of the hoodness so he can kind of, I guess, look better. Because when you make it from the suburbs, man, don't nobody care, man. Like I remember growing up and people picking on me because I had a nice upbringing. Like, don't nobody pick on people from the hood. That's who you supposed to pick on. They fucking poor, nigga. That's who you should be picking on. Pick on the people from the hood. They poor. Don't pick on the people that got something. Like, I got made fun of because I was in the house on the block that was nice. Parents, they handled their business. They paid their bills on time. It gave me a hard time. I should be having a really good time. Y'all should be like praising me. Wow. I got a Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation and a Dreamcast. And I had the Sega Genesis. I got all the games. You got it. I didn't want to play your house. I remember I was on the phone one time with my best friend. This was around 2nd, 3rd grade. And he was supposed to come over to the house and spend the night. He was supposed to come over to the house and spend the night, right? And we on the phone just talking. And I'm like, yeah, man, I got a Nintendo 64. I'm going to play the game. We're going to play the game. I got this game. I got 007. I got this. I got that. And he like, I don't care. That shit just broke my heart. That shit just broke my heart. I'm like, what? I'm just trying to tell you we gonna have fun. But he took it as me flexing. I'm like, I'm not flexing on you, dude. I'm just trying to, and me and I'm in 2nd and 3rd grade. You know, this the 90s. I'm not really thinking about like what showing off and what flexing, and we don't have none of that stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, like, why? I just couldn't fathom why he said that. Like, why he was so. And my grandparents always was telling me about him, that he was jealous of me and that he didn't really like me and all this stuff. And I just was like, there ain't no way. I just couldn't fathom that shit. Like, how could my best friend be jealous of me? Everything I got, he basically got. I share it with him, you know? But yeah, that motherfucker was jealous as shit looking back. He did not like me. He just wanted to be around me. I don't know why. He didn't really, yeah, I guess he didn't. I think what looking back, yeah, it's funny if he ever watches shit, he gonna know I'm talking about him too. I think what he was like better at sports, and if he wasn't getting the attention, he didn't like that. He was the baby too of his brothers. But yeah, he I would go to his house, and what's crazy. Here's what's crazy: how perspectives and things is changed. He lived in the country. I lived in the city. He lived in the country. When I would go out to his house, he basically lived in like, it wasn't a mobile home, but it was like one of them long houses that was actually on the ground. But he had so much land. You go to his house, they had pit bulls. They had a whole bunch of pit bulls surrounding the property. So they had kennels everywhere, dogs everywhere. Had trampoline, had a basketball court. You know, so I would go over his house, and I'd be like, I mean, this is like, his house was like the rich dudes in my mind, third grade, the rich dude's house. He was the rich kid in my eyes because he had so much stuff. They had a shed that had like arcade games, and you could shoot, had a little basketball shoot thing, had a shed basically full of junk toys, basically, but you could play with some of the stuff. They had video games. He had older brothers, so they would be at home all day by themselves while their mom was at work, playing music, playing PlayStation. Like, his house, to me, was the spot. And I think what happened is, being that our house was like big. We had two-story house. We had two-story house with what? 4 bedrooms, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 bedrooms actually. And what's crazy about that is, you take this and be like, oh, that's where you got all your money from. Oh, I see. All right. Yeah, all right. Nah, nigga. We came down here where we at now, and then this is when we came down here in like 2008. That's when. Well, 2006 is when we moved down to where I am now with my grandparents. And yeah, I started from scratch, nigga. I don't know what y'all niggas talking about. I started from scratch. They gave me a car. That's what they did for me. Gave me a car. I had an apartment. They helped me with the apartment sometimes. But once I was like halfway through my 20s, I had to start from scratch. I even stopped wanting them to help me. Like, I stopped letting them help me once I got past like 20. I mean, how old was I? Maybe like 25. Once I got like 25, 26, I didn't want no more help, yo. I did about all by myself, and here I am today. 3-story home, you know, always in some designer, buying sport cars for the fuck of it. I'm not here to brag, but crypto rich, you know. Anyway, so yeah, I really wanted to be him. And then you go out into the woods. It was like a big river. We go fishing. And yeah, it's crazy how like I really wanted his lifestyle. But he was like, man, I'm out here in the woods, man. I'm out here in the country, man. This shit, man, ain't nobody out here. This dude get to live near the city. It's the tall towers and shit. You can see the towers from his house. Damn, man. For me, I was like, man, it's kind of crazy. Like, you grow up in the city, like you kind of see it a little bit differently. And then you be like, wow, I lived in the city. When I get away from it, I was like, wow, man, I was in the city. It wasn't a big city, but I can see the buildings. When I go to the top of the street, I can look down the street and see the buildings. And I think he was kind of jealous of that.